Okay, so welcome to DIAC Biodefense. So I think I'll start off by just briefly recapping like how the hell I even got here, right? Because basically, I started off being the Ethereum guy, and I'm historically, not a bio person and more of a math and computer and economics person. I was definitely interested in longevity almost since the beginning. I read Aubrey de Grey's book, Ending Aging, back when I was 13, and that just really impressed me, both like the sheer importance of solving aging, but also the fact that there is a roadmap to actually get us there. And so I was excited about longevity the whole time ever since. But then for DIAC Biodefense in particular, in 2021, there was this big meme coin mania that I'm sure you guys all remember. So first in 2016, there was Dogecoin, and Dogecoin went up really high. And then during the 2020-21 bubble, a bunch of people basically started like copycatting Dogecoin and making their own dog-themed coins and hoping that they'll go up too. And so some of these people decided as a strategy that they would put a large portion of their supply into my wallet balance and then publicly say Vitalik Buterin supports this coin, even though I never touched it. And some of these coins just like went up way higher than they should. And so one of those big coins was called Shiba Inu. There were also others, and I sold a bunch of them, and I donated some to a couple of organizations, in one of which is Crypto Relief India. So at the time in India, there was this big COVID crisis that was happening. Lots of people were getting sick. It looked very bad from outside. It looked like no one was really caring about the situation. And so I came in and donated to this group that originally Balaji introduced me to. And first I donated a little bit, and I donated an amount of Shiba tokens that I thought would be worth a few $1 million at most. But then, and they ended up managing to cash out like literally $470 million. And so after that, so 470 million ended up being like more than Crypto Relief India needs for its whole roadmap. And I was also started researching and understanding COVID and bio and pandemic related topics more heavily. And Balvi, between myself and some of my science advisors, like basically slowly formed and ended up spending a significant chunk of that meme coin funding on basically moonshot topics that deal with all kinds of anti-pandemic related efforts in general. So biodefense is important, right? So compared to the natural environment, population density is way higher than before. Urbanization continues to increase. We have very easy worldwide air travel. In the best case scenarios, we might even have like rockets that'll take us from New York to Bangkok in 1 hour. But Eli Dorado told me that like that's probably not going to be commercialized anytime soon because rockets are a little too dangerous. But we have supersonic jets; they might take us there in like 4 or 5 hours. And so I expect air travel to just be even more ubiquitous. Factory farming creates lots of pandemics, man-made pandemics. So gain-of-function research, continues to happen and basically continues to be a source of risk, and also synthetic biology as a science growing, potentially making artificial pandemics even more of a problem. So biodefense is a big deal. Toby Ord, in his book The Precipice, talking about existential risk, his view is that the number one risk is AI and the number two risk is a pandemic. So pandemics are important both because of like big picture reasons and because of very clear near-term reasons. COVID showed how humanity was underprepared for pandemics and how centralized biodefense fails. So we saw this happen at every stage of the pipeline. We saw at the very beginning of the pandemic, December 2019, January 2020, a lot of early information suppression and heavy censorship from people speaking out about the pandemic at the beginning. Then In the spring, there was this very crazy situation where the World Health Organization very publicly and stridently announced that COVID-19 is not airborne. And of course, at the beginning, this was like, this often gets defended as being a well-intentioned effort to basically stop people from trying to stockpile and like grab up all of the masks because like pandemic emergency care workers need the masks. But as often happens with these kinds of social engineering tricks, they ended up overfitting to a particular situation, and as time progressed, like this basically just turned into like this massive misinformation that just confused people for years, and we saw years of delay on basic air precaution measures, and at the same time, people just pointlessly wasting hours wiping surfaces. We saw failures of centralized social distancing mandates, so mandatory quarantines, mandatory closing of everything. Lots of people in lots of countries just friggin' hated it. And I think if you imagined the social distancing that was forced on humanity in 2020 and you imagined it as a pill, and you think about the kinds of side effects that it might have in terms of the social fabric, the collective psyche, and so on, it would have never passed FDA approval, not even as an emergency treatment. So also vaccines, and I think vaccines are good, but at the same time, there's a lot of things about how vaccines were done that can and should be criticized. So vaccines were mandated, and at the same time, there was this very closed source information culture, both the closed source process of actually developing these vaccines, but also the process of safety testing them. And again, this was this effort to try to create this centralized message that would be basically very clear and much cleaner than anything is actually possible in reality, right? That basically tried to say, vaccines have no risk, and you basically have to take them. The reality, of course, is that vaccines have some level of risk. COVID itself has even more risk, and so if you're interacting with people, you pretty much should take a vaccine anyway, but at the same time, vaccines do have like non-zero risk, and like basically, over time, like trying to craft this overly clean message actually ended up sacrificing a lot of credibility, right? So centralized biodefense has lots of problems that we saw. DIAC shows better solutions. So the things that you'll hear about over the next 2 hours include, one, a lot of work on clean indoor air. So in this room, you see a lot of these boxes. They're passive air filters. They make this room much more COVID safe than pretty much any other room in this conference venue and most other venue rooms that you'll see. Technologies for clean indoor air, ventilation, filtering, ultraviolet light. So then we have ubiquitous passive testing. So the past of COVID testing is sticking things up your nose. The future of COVID testing is either personal sensors that you can breathe into or just passive sensors in rooms that can just detect when viruses even exist. Open epistemics, so open public dashboards that can help people understand where pandemics are happening. Open vaccine research, open vaccine development, the development of types of vaccines that can be easily manufactured anywhere in the world, and also research and treatment. So a lot of work needs to be done in better understanding long COVID. So for COVID in particular, the long-term symptoms are basically the primary reason why you should take it more seriously than something like the cold or the flu. And there's a lot of very important research happening and like actually deeply understanding the underlying mechanisms, and then finally actually treating these diseases. So the collection of these solutions that we outline here basically will make humanity much more resilient to pandemics passively as a matter of default, regardless of what kind of pandemic it is, regardless of whether it's a repeat of an old one, or it's gain of function, or it comes out of a factory farm, or if someone created it intentionally to start World War III. Regardless of what you think your threat model is, airborne diseases are the most dangerous category in terms of causing catastrophic harm, and this will just across the board passively make humanity safer. There are some active solutions, but they only need to be turned on while pandemics are actually happening, and even they are vastly less intrusive than what we saw in the past. Finally, bridges between DEAC, longevity, and BCI. So this bio is a connected field, and a lot of the work that is being done here is work that is also valuable in these other fields. Viral persistence, a mechanism that is the source of long COVID, also explains mitochondrial dysfunction, inflammation, cognitive decline. Better understanding of microbes in general helps everyone. Better open imaging technology is good for medicine and good for treating and understanding diseases, also good for brain-computer interfaces. So technology that I will talk about here will improve our ability to understand disease, understand aging, and understand